Sex is the life force energy that runs through us all. Can you use sexual energy for your spiritual evolution? Or perhaps for emotional healing? Is it even possible? Clinical sexologist Dr. Martha Tara Lee will explore all these and more on Eros Evolution on OMTimes Radio.
Welcome to Eros Evolution, where sexuality and spirituality meet. This is Martha. I'm a clinical sexologist based in Singapore, and my company is called Eros Coaching. That's eroscoaching.com. Today's show, we have the ritual of play to the edge and back, and we are with Cleo Dubois. She came into SM play 30 years ago and found community acceptance and healing in her relationships and erotic exchanges she had with those who mentored her. And she was in the heart of San Francisco leather community with writers like Pat, who is now Patrick Califia, and Gayle, Rubin, and Cynthia Slater. So they were. She was the creator of the Society of Janus SM educational group.
Close the door.
As an abuse survivor, she found a path to empowerment and self-growth. In the mid to late 80s, few women were visible and out about kink, and she was soon asked to teach at leather conferences and community avenues. And she was fortunate to befriend gay men into leathermen. So when AIDS struck so many of them, those who survived used their SM and sexual practices as rituals to help deal with their grief. Loving and consensual BDSM became her practice. What Cleo learned, she taught, and still do now that kink and fetishes are more accepted. They worked hard to make that happen, and that work is not over. So shedding light today on the common misconceptions of BDSM, offering a healing path and seeing BDSM as therapeutic, but not therapy. Cleo is passionate about body rituals and the use of many kink practices that feel that need to connect and be ourselves fully. You can find out more about Cleo, and I'll introduce more about her through the show. And you can go to her website, that's sm-arts.com, and also Cleo Dubois, that's DUBOIS.com. So welcome, Cleo.
Welcome, Martha Lee. How are you today?
I'm great. I'm so happy to have you on the show. I remember that I met with you at least 5 years ago when I was in San Francisco, and I had a private session with you.
Yes, I do remember as well. So I am glad to be on your show. I am sure you have a lot of questions, or how do you want me to talk about things? I am not exactly familiar with how you run the interview, but here I am, ready and willing.
Thank you so much. I'm so honored to have you, and you are really one of the leaders and pioneers of BDSM. So tell us, how did you get here, in what you're doing right now?
Well, let me just clarify a few things first for English spoken people. You mentioned a lot of other pioneers, and as far as I was hearing it, I would not have recognized their name. So the people that were mentioned that are really pioneer, and actually were some of my mentors, are Patrick Califia, who is a well-known writer. So that's one of the women who now is a man, who helped me get into BDSM. And also there was a organized community starting in San Francisco, which is where the root of those practices flourished first. And I'm really glad that now there is a better and much bigger understanding of fetishism and erotic energy exchanges. So how did I get started? I got started by being brought to a very, very first workshop given by a woman named Cats on Love, who was a dominant, and that was in the early 80s. And she gave that workshop on erotic dominance. And my boyfriend at the time thought that I might be interested. I did not know I was interested. He thought by the nature of our relationship, he could feel that I had dominant energy. So he took me to the workshop, and boom, it was like a big light bulb in my head. And the big light bulb in my head that exploded was, oh, wow, this is what I want. And the reason why I'm thinking now about why it immediately struck me as something I wanted is because of the element of negotiation that people in play do, and the element of consent. So between the fact about people were talking about both the top and the bottom, or the doer and the receiver, or the dominant and the submissive, because there are so many nuances to all of these erotic games, would speak to each other and make agreement as to what was okay to happen and what was not okay to happen, would have safe words, so there would be an element of control that the submissive will always have by calling the safe word, and an ethical dominant will most definitely hear the safe word and stop the activity, or check with the submissive if the activity, how the activity that was going on was triggering him to safe words, so that the consent would remain intact. So between our negotiation and informed consent, those two things, as I did write in my bio, which I sent you, that I was an abuse survivor, those two things attracted me enormously, because there was disclosure and ongoing consent, which I think is extremely important for all people, and especially and even more for people who are survivors of abuse, to have a place where whatever risk they take, there is a safety built in. So for me, BDSM has always involved trust and safety.
Thank you for explaining how you came to understand BDSM and some of the concepts behind BDSM. So what did you learn along the way of your own explorations and community development?
What did I learn? When I learned first off, I don't really like to use the term BDSM anymore, because there is still a lot of judgment and misunderstanding on kink activity. So now, in 2016, the word kink is more generally accepted in the U.S. I know you're in Singapore, and I know you're doing wonderful work to expand people's energy and sexual energy and spiritual energy. But kink, meaning it's a little softer of a term and maybe has less judgment. So what I learned, here's what I learned. I learned that everybody, every human being wants connection. Everybody and every human being wants trust, and want to be able to trust their lover, their partner, their girlfriend, their boyfriend, their husband, their wife, their anybody they have a relationship with. That we all want connection and trust. And in the lifestyle that I am in, this is clearly stated, clearly discussed. There is room for people to hear each other. A lot of people have worked on that. Let me plug in a book that is really, really great from my friend Dossie Easton, Dossie Easton, Easton, called Ethical Slut. That's the name of the book. There is amazing information in that on how to look at our erotic power exchange, and in kink, the erotic power exchange, the erotic power exchange, are clear. And we grow and we change as we keep exploring with different people, with casual relationship, with lifetime relationship. So the interest I had when I first came out are very different than the one I have now. Are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, I hear the sound. So, for instance, when I first started, I was so interested in being dominant and fiery and use flogger and open up people with very intense sensation. Now, 30 years later, I'm much more subtle. I am still very, very into opening people up with intense sensation, but in a more subtle sort of a way. I can be a lot more gentle. So in all of these years, I've learned the power of bondage, the beauty of bondage, the beauty of being slow in the interaction that we do, the ritual that every one of those kink / BDSM interaction is a ritual between 2 or 3 people, usually 2, sometimes more. And the ritual is what makes it sacred. So we create a sacred space by negotiating and talking about what we want, both the people involved. When I work with couple, I work with a lot of couples. And so I have both of them state their desire and their fear. There's always fear. What is the desire? What is the fear? Then come to a negotiation and an agreement. And then when we go in the dungeon, I watch where the energy goes so that the connection is built and is loving. So there is an aspect of loving that comes into play. Not just fetishism, not just pain, not just intensity.
So we have a break, and we're with Cleo Dubois talking about loving through BDSM and kink. So more after this break.
Connecting you with the best of the conscious minds in the world. OMTimes Radio. IOM-FM.
Greetings, fellow soul travelers. This is Dr. Amelia Kemp with OMTimes Radio. If you've been stressed mentally or emotionally, then join me on Sundays at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for the From Psychotherapy to Sacred Therapy show, where you'll learn you're not sick, you're sacred. And by aligning with the soul is what makes you whole.
Hey ladies, do you want to have that good hair day feeling all the time? Gentlemen, would you want your special someone to have that glow, letting you know she is feeling completely satisfied? This feeling and that glow can be yours by embracing your sexual power. So join me, Rachel Kenley, award-winning romance author, on the O-Spot. The O-Spot will guide you to that peak with guest interviews, book discussions, and conversations on the thrills of sexual empowerment. Put the zing back in your life. Come up and see me sometime on the O-Spot, live on Hump Day at 10 p.m. Eastern.
Being a radio host on IOM-FM allows you to build your show on a rich platform with the power of the Internet to fulfill your outreach goals and connect with a very specialized and global online audience, unlimited by time and distance. OMTimes Radio will provide you with web relevance, a recognizable conscious brand, and with the standard of excellence that has accompanied every single OMTimes endeavor. Host your show with OMTimes Radio Network. Have you ever wondered how to change your love paradigm? The secret key is finding a love partnership, not just a regular connection. How do you find these? Through conscious relationships. Ascending Hearts Dating is a dating site for people like you that believes in second chances and a different type of spiritual connection. Try Ascending Hearts for free today at ascendinghearts.com and change your love paradigm. Ascending Hearts, the premier dating community for the spiritually awake. The future of Internet radio is here. OMTimes Radio. IOM-FM.
Welcome back to Eros Evolution. Today we are talking about the ritual of play with Cleo Dubois, and you can find out more about her by going to her website sm-arts.com, and also Cleo Dubois, that's D-U-B-I
No, D-U-B-O.
DUBOIS.com. And a little bit more about Cleo. BDSM is her lifelong passion. She's a dominant woman who also enjoys bottoming, community player, and ritualist. She knows consensual power play as a valid path to self-discovery, intimacy, and healing. Her docu-film, The Pain Game, received an award from the Society of the Scientific Study of Sexuality and is noted for its authenticity in embodying the spirit of connected BDSM play. And I agree because I have watched it as well. I love it, and I definitely recommend that you check it out. She's also published groundbreaking publications such as Different Loving 2, TOO, Sacred Kink, and countless BDSM publications.
May I say that those are work I am part of, but they are not my work per se. Dr. Gloria Brame, B-A-R-M-E, is the woman who published and wrote Different Loving 1 and wrote Different Loving 2. And Lee Harrington is the trans man who published and edited the other book that you mentioned.
Sacred Kink.
So, Sacred Kink. So I am part of this book, but they are not my sole creation. I want to make sure that I'm clear on that, okay?
Okay. Thank you very much. So she's also the founder of the Academy of SM Arts, and she leads erotic dominance intensives for dominant folks and those who switch with Eve Minix. And she was in another episode of Eros Evolution. Okay, so more about Cleo later. So coming back to the show, Cleo, could you tell us a little bit more about how you mentioned you don't like to use the term BDSM anymore, but rather refer it to as kink. How do you see BDSM and kink playing?
Playing. I am not sure about your question. Are you asking me how do I see how more it is understood in the world now, or are you asking me something else?
Yes, I'm asking about, when we talk about playing.
Yes.
In a scene and all that.
Yes.
How does that actually play out?
Well, every scene is different. I think it plays out by paying attention to the energy. Mm-hmm. A good scene, the energy is exchanged between the partner. What the term that we use in California is running energy. I just came back. Actually, I came back for your show. I was because I couldn't do it in Los Angeles. I didn't have the capacity there, but I just came back from running a big ritual that was all about flogging kind of activity for shedding things that we no longer want in our life, and then sensory deprivation for going deep. Sensory deprivation, blindfold and body bags for going deep, big bondage into self-exploration. And then coming out of the sensory deprivation with a new way to express yourself. So that's a certain kind of play that's very ritualized that I like to do. When the play is more sexually oriented, is more toward the pleasure of both the dominant and the submissive, it's or the receptive, or the top and the bottom. It's more about building up turn on together, building up like this great electric feeling that's a turn on for men, women, and trans people. That is like, wow, we're really connected. I really want you. I really love your worship. I love the way you worship me. I love the way you flog me, or the spanking you give me really turn me on. So it's about paying attention that the players are on the same vibration on the same page, that they connect with each other, and it's very different for everybody. Each interaction is different. What you're in the mood for today, you might not be in the mood for a week from now. So if you're in a relationship and one is dominant and one is submissive, that's why the negotiation and the speaking and the ongoing respect of the other partner is utterly important. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay. So there is not just one thing for one person. You know, there is also the idea of the persona and the archetype. So personally, I like to bottom sometimes, but I only bottom very specifically to very, very, very few people. Because I don't want, when I have a chance to open up and surrender, I don't want to be in control. So I bottom to a person or two that really knows how to take me down, how to lead me into this place where I'm no longer Cleo Dubois, the dominant, but I'm maybe my younger self, maybe my little girl inside. And maybe my little girl inside wants to be little girl to daddy. But daddy is my lover, or could be my lover. So you see, when we start playing with the persona and we look inside ourselves in erotic play, might we be dominant or submissive, or both, we find different pieces of ourselves that we can play with. And that's when the dress up and the different way to speak to each other and the different activity, that's where all of this takes place. And this is a ritual of play. So when you, or the scene, you can also call it a scene, but I really like to call it the ritual of play. So you start always with a definition of defining the space, like having a collar. You know, putting a collar around the submissive's neck. If it's going to be a little girl submissive, maybe it's little pearls. You know, a little girl adult, right? We're talking about adult people playing their inner self, their inner child. So you start the scene and you have a agreement, and then the scene develops, and sometimes it has sex in it, like big sex, and sometimes it doesn't. It depends on the players. And at the end of the scene, when everything is done, and before the aftercare and the calm down and the talking to each other about it, you take off the dominant, take off the collar of the submissive neck, and now you're both back to being adult in equal mode, regardless of the games that you were playing.
I can see that there's a lot of safety that is created within those boundaries. Could you talk a little bit about the level of surrender that actually feels empowering?
I think that any level of surrender feels empowering, because surrender is surrender. Surrender is trust and letting go and opening up. So it manifests in different ways for different people. It can be, if we're talking about the submissive, having orgasm given by the top, then it can be a complete opening into ecstatic orgasm, and letting go of what you look like or what you need to do to return the favor or any of that, to just open up. If it's about a scene involving intense sensation like flogging, then the surrender can be crying, opening up and sobbing and crying and letting all the grief come out. The grief maybe because your parents died or something terrible happened to your children or any of these things. So the grief is released. So the surrender has an aspect of release, and the release doesn't have to be only orgasmic release. Some element of surrender can be having a chance if you are being caned, which is very, very fiery, to scream your head off and let your anger out, but not your anger at your partner, but your anger at other things in your life. So it's also a release. It's letting go of things. And it comes in very many different ways.
That's great. Thank you.
I'm here.
So I like what you're saying about how we can go into different personas and archetypes, and this is to be predetermined and negotiated. And I guess how much you can go deep into a ritual or play with someone would determine on how well you know yourself and also the person that you are with.
Or how much you trust them, how clear you are about your desire, how committed you are to using the safe word. You know, the safe word, that means not stop, because sometimes saying stop is not really what you want. You might want to be somebody is spanking you and you say stop, but maybe there's a part of you that would be very disappointed if you stop. So that's why we have the safe word. So trusting the safe word that the person, your partner, would use the safe word, knowing their skill level, and this is why I teach. I teach actually with Eve Minags. And I also teach alone in my beautiful little dungeon in the peninsula near San Francisco. And the kind of a teaching that I do is really about building trust by paying attention not just to what is being negotiated, which is very important, but how the energy feels. So, you know, in a way, that's why I call it the ritual of play. It has to do not just with the mind and what we think, but also with the energy. I know you know about Tantra, so there's a kind of an element of Tantra in all of this as well.
It's beautiful. So I love what Cleo is sharing, and we're going to learn more about energy and the ritual of play.
Bringing you the best of the conscious minds in the world. OMTimes Radio, your conscious lifestyle on steroids.
The truth is, you can't change the world if you're broke. I know, I've tried. Isn't it time you turned your life's calling into a profitable, freedom-based business? I'm Michelle Barr. Join me every Thursday at 2 p.m. Eastern for Sacred Success.
Hello, I'm Miriam Knight of New Consciousness Review, inviting you to my new show where I interview the rising stars of the conscious awakening. We'll explore the many faces of consciousness in action and intriguing perspectives on life, the universe, and everything in between. Join us each Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern on the Rising Stars Show.
Host your show on OMFM, the radio network of OMTimes Media, one of the more recognized brand names in the conscious community, and is backed by the extensive marketing reach of OMTimes. Hosting a show on OMFM immediately connects you with our extensive dedicated community. What if business could be fun? What if business is the adventure of living? What are you choosing? Where do you do business that makes it easier, more fun, or more joyful for you? We'd love to see where you do business. Connect with us on Instagram at Joy of Business or Twitter at Joy of Business, and share your pictures with hashtags BusinessDoneWhere and Joy of Business. Let's change the world with business. The Real Conscious Connection. OMTimes Radio. IOM-FM.
Welcome back to Evolution, and we are on OMTimes Radio Network. And you can share this show with your friends by going to this link, omtimes.com/mobile. With this link, your friends will be able to listen to this show without needing to download any app. We are talking about the ritual of play today, and we are with Cleo Dubois. And a little bit more about her. Cleo also mentors and guides couples in the privacy of her own playroom or dungeon, and she is available in her office and also via Skype for newcomers to kink and also those who seek sophisticated guidance. And you can find out details about her and more by going to her website sm-arts.com, and also Cleo Dubois, that's DUBOIS.com, one word, Cleo Dubois. And she blogs In Kink with Heart, true stories of her 30 years in the scene as well. You can check those out on her websites. So just before the break, we were talking about how BDSM or kink uses a lot of energy play, and it is very spiritual, if you ask me, because I've seen people who do scenes in dungeons, and I also know how actually BDSM is very healing. There's a lot of consent and a lot of negotiation. There's permission giving. It's very empowering. The spiritual part is what I'm interested in, and some of the listeners out there, they may not be so comfortable with the aspect of pain when it comes to BDSM. So Cleo, I would like to ask you to maybe give us a little bit more explanation and fleshing out about the spiritual aspect as well as the sexual aspect of kink. So what's the link you see between sexuality and spirituality?
Oh, that's a great question. When you know the link is because our body, heart, and spirit, it's all in a continuum. And when you're really connected, when you're really vibrant, when you're really alive, when you're really happy, is because your sex, your heart, and your spirit is all connected. It's like, the link. The links are aware. The links are alive. It's all one big thing. So, we in Western culture have lost a lot of ritual. People are into in their mind, or in their sex, or in love, or in their heart. But it's not all connected. And then their spirit might be, in church or in meditation. But in BDSM, you can start seeing that all of these aspects of us as humans are one. They really are one. If we are really present, they're one. So let's do it in the big sexual way first. So I'll start with the big one and then I'll go smaller. So not exactly the way people usually do that. So if you have a earth-shattering, a huge orgasm, and your consciousness is aligned, it's like being in God or goddess space. It's like being united with all. It's a big love thing. It's not the same as loving one person. So through that enormous energy of orgasm, you open up and you're like a big shiny self and you're connected. Now in a ritual, that's one of the part of ritual of play. Maybe one of those ritual of plays through there is a intense orgasmic thing that happened at the end of the play or towards the end of the play. Another thing could be the ritual of play that is done, for instance, with piercing. Piercing is something I'm very familiar with. My husband has a piercing school that has been running for 26 years. My husband's name is Fakir, if people want to look him up, fakir.org. And he brought back and he taught me about the value of ritual to be put into our lives. So if I do a ritual piercing with very clean, sterile needle done very carefully with gloves on, and I give, let's say, 25 needles on the heart chakra of someone, the endorphin will kick in. That's the chemistry of the brain, and other brain chemical will activate, and they will go into a place where they are very high, but they are not very high from taking drugs. They are very high from the chemistry in their brain that all of the needles have triggered and have alivened. And in that, there is also a connection to spirit. And the same with flogging, not Singapore caning. No, but flogging, okay? Repeated loving flogging. Bondage. The kind of bondage that make you cocoon and you're all blindfolded and you have a hood on and you're in a bag and you go into this place of being inside the earth and you're looking at your heart and maybe somebody is your top is doing a vibrator on your genital. So you're having pleasure and being all safe and cocooned into darkness and you see your spirit fly too. So all of these rituals are nothing new. They don't belong to kinky people, BDSM people, SM people, sadomasochists. They're ancient rituals, but they were done differently. And by where you are, I'm sure you know about the Thai Pusam Festival. Mm-hmm. Actually, I went to the Thai Pusam Festival with Fakir, and we saw the ecstasy of some of these young men who were being all pierced and pulling on hooks, which is a ritual we now do sometime here in America. So, in those ancient rituals in America, there was a Sundance from the native people of America that also involved piercing. There was a shamanic ritual of the man being put in the lodge, which is like a big tent, ritual tent, for vision seeking. So all of these vision seeking and release and surrender ritual are ancient practice in many cultures, including India and including Thailand and including America. And now many people are doing suspension. So now we are bringing back through our movement in kink and BDSM and piercing and suspension, we are bringing back the understanding that body ritual, might they be directly sexual, slightly sexual, erotic, about surrender, about pain and pleasure, that these rituals are very valid to empower us as human beings to be fully present. So we are not just sometime in our genitals, sometime in our hearts when we're in love, sometime in our brain all the time where we're at the computer, but instead we're more we're more full, we're more present. And again, these are old things that are being brought back into our culture and transformed now through our practices, which is why I don't like to call it BDSM. What I really like to call it is consensual power exploration. That's really my favorite word, is consensual power exploration or consensual energy exchange exploration. So it sounds weird. The main thing people have to remember is what all of this look like. It's not what it feels like. Mm. So you see something, maybe you see some SM. Well, in my movie, I explain it. Excuse me. I explain it very clearly that this is about erotic exchange and that we care for each other. So it's not, but sometimes it can look like violence, but it is not. Yeah. Sometimes it can look like abuse, but it is not. Sometimes it can look like pain, but it is not. So what it looks like, somebody, is crying. Are they in pain? Maybe they're just releasing all things they need to let go of. Somebody is coming, very big orgasm. Are they just having an orgasm? No, maybe they're finding their link to their higher self. And that's, actually, a lot of us will affirm that. A lot of the Tantra people see that as well. I'm not a Tantrika, but I'm familiar with the power of breath and focus. So the intention, the skill, the quality of presence, the negotiation is really what make those body practices connect with spirit.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. I really, really, really appreciate all the depth and the wisdom that you're sharing. And I really love how you explain the link between body, heart, and spirit being a continuum, it being connected. When the links are alive, we are aware it's one big thing. And
yep, you got it.
In some practices, they believe in denial of the body, denial of the heart, denial of our sexuality. And what you're saying is all of it needs to happen for us to be truly aware and alive. I also love what you're sharing about how it is actually around us and in practices around us. So, for instance, like Thai Busan that you mentioned, where they use piercing and people in ecstasy, and it's not something that is so scary. And I love what you're saying, consensual power exploration. And what you're saying, it may look scary, but it doesn't feel scary. I love it.
Oh, thank you. It may look violent, but it is not violent, you know.
And also, it brings to mind how when I was much younger, sexually much younger also, I was introduced to my first vibrator, and I there was this giant phallic looking vibrator, and I was thinking, no way, it can't go in. And that's the whole idea, how a lot of people associate something that looks scary as painful, when actually, if you combine it with pleasure, I was aroused, the vibrator wasn't that scary after that.
Nope. I like your analogy. Yes. Yeah, a little gentleness goes a long way. Absolutely. But, fear is only fear. I mean, it can be interesting to look at fear, but if you trust your partner, then you can just open up the door and let the fear dissipate, and instead have an exploration, because what you want is safety and pleasure.
Yeah. So we're talking about safety, pleasure, and the ritual of play with Cleo Dubois, and I'm enjoying having her. She's so experienced. So the last 50 minutes after this break.
Free your mind with OMTimes Radio, IOM-FM.
Eros Evolution is where sexuality and spirituality meets. Join me, clinical sexologist Martha Tara Lee, on Eros Evolution on Thursdays, 4 p.m. Eastern on OMTimes Radio.
Have you bought into the idea that you have to work hard for your money, that business is hard? I will share some dynamic access consciousness tools to get you out of your own way so you can create a business that actually succeeds. Join me, Simone Millisers, on The Joy of Business at 4 p.m. Mondays Eastern.
Being a radio host on IOM-FM allows you to build your show on a rich platform with the power of the internet to fulfill your outreach goals and connect with a very specialized and global online audience, unlimited by time and distance. OMTimes Radio will provide you with web relevance, a recognizable conscious brand, and with the standard of excellence that has accompanied every single OMTimes endeavor. Host your show with OMTimes Radio Network. Have you ever wondered how to change your love paradigm? The secret key is finding a love partnership, not just a regular connection. How do you find these? Through conscious relationships. Ascending Hearts Dating is a dating site for people like you that believes in second chances and a different type of spiritual connection. Try Ascending Hearts for free today at ascendinghearts.com and change your love paradigm. Ascending Hearts, the premier dating community for the spiritually awake. Connecting you with the best of the conscious minds in the world. OMTimes Radio. IOM-FM.
Welcome back, and this is the last 15 minutes of our show, The Ritual of Play with Cleo Dubois. And remember, she is available by Skype and also in her office. She's available for newcomers to kink and those who seek sophisticated guidance. She also works with couples in the privacy of her own playroom and dungeon. Tell us a little bit about your work with couples, Cleo.
I'll tell you, my work with couples, that's one of my absolute favorite things to do is my work with couples. So there are different kind of couples that seek my services. Some are a newcomer to the scene. Maybe the woman is kinky and the guy isn't. Or maybe the man is kinky and the woman isn't. Or maybe they are really both interested but they don't know what to do. So I love to hear them and to start guiding them along the way. And it can just be sometimes just a consultation live in my office if they're in the Silicon Valley. You know, I live right there where I live on the same street where the Facebook is. Maybe I shouldn't have told you that. Anyway, it's a very, very long street, so it's a few miles long. But yeah, so I can help people by just hearing their concern and guiding them along the way and giving them resources and books to read and things like that. It doesn't have only to be physically in my physical presence. Other couple that come to me, I do not do a single session with submissive men. I want to be very clear with that. I used to do it for many, many years. I loved it. I learned a lot, but I do not do that anymore. I do not do mistress and submissive men session. Only work with couple and also initiation of people who are looking for specific ritual. So other couple would be, and that would be more people who want to talk because they are having a problem. They try different kind of play, and they got into a big wall, and then maybe they had a big argument, screaming at each other, and they don't ever want to do it again because it was bad. So what I do is I help them figure out really what didn't work and how to start over and avoid these problems. And then so these are the different kind of work that I do with couple. Now in my dungeon, if people can visit, then it's truly wonderful because the energy is right there and I can feel, I look for the enjoyment and the pleasure of both the top and the bottom, or the dominant and the submissive, or any of the role play that people play, so that it works for both of them. And I, make suggestions like please go slower, or please open up, or do you need to say something, or hand them a flogger, or hand them a tit clamp, or like this, make suggestions. So the work is very varied. There is no two couples the same. But one thing that's the same is that people come to my door. We speak on the phone first, right? And then they come to my door and they're all nervous. And, they shake my hand very briefly and have them sit in my office and then we negotiate and like that. And then after we go in the dungeon for 2 hours, because I do this 3-hour appointment, and we come back out of the dungeon and we have done our scene, our play, our ritual of play together. When they leave, they say, oh, can we give you a hug? And that happens all the time. It's like their barriers are down. They want me to give them a hug. We're all happy. So that is really joyful for me to see that. So the work is very different and it can be skill. A lot of people need skill. Like they need to know how to tie up safely. They need to know how to spank safely. They need to know how to flog safely. They need to know how to play with women's breasts safely. The women need to know how to do a CBT, cock and ball torment safely. People need, it's very sophisticated, all of these things. So having more skill and having somebody who can empower you with a skill really works. And also, not just the skill, but the combination of the skill, the energy, the trust, and the building. It's like building something together, making it whole, making it full. And then, of course, the aftercare, giving people suggestion about, okay, now that you had a wonderful scene together, don't talk it to death. Don't start going back into your mind. Go have a nice dinner or a nice, whatever it is. Relax, or go home and make love, or, something like this. But it's important that people learn to not overprocess their experience and to keep hearing each other and keep on playing. And it might not be every day, might not even be every week. It might be a once a month thing. There is so much in the field of the erotic, the ecstatic, and the link with the spirit that keep me going. And I'm not a young girl anymore. I'm sure you know that. Being into that for a long time, I'm not tired of it.
And very good at what you do. So,
thank you.
What, just for listeners out there, I want to make sure we give them a little bit of something to take away. What practical tool or tip can you share with listeners so that they can actually start using it quickly?
Well, it depends what kind of listener, learn to listen to your partner desire. Mm-hmm. Learn to listen to your own desire. Speak your truth. If you would like to get a spanking, erotic spanking, well, it makes something really simple, but you think it's shameful, forget that it's shameful. It is not shameful. And approach your partner and say, I think I would really like to try if you spank me. Or, the other way. I would really like, to spank you. Would it be okay? Let's have a safe word. So to talk about things. And then to learn skills. There is so much out there. If you want to learn bondage, ropes, there's this fantastic guy named the Two Naughty Boys. They have lots of stuff online. There is Lee Harrington. I know you had Lee Harrington on your show.
Yes.
Has a beautiful book out about ropes, a lot. About at least 30% of people have some desire for being restrained because when they're restrained, they have little bondage on. They look like they're not free, but instead they're free to be taken. They're free. They're like, I'm giving myself to you. Take me. So learning some skill for that. Don't look at porn is my big advice. Porn is for jacking off or masturbation, whatever kind of porn people look at. It is not for skill. So don't look at porn for skill. Look at educational stuff. For instance, I made a flogging video for kink.com. It's all skill-based. You see how I flogged a woman. I talk about it. So kink.com has all kind of porn. But they have this little segment in there that's called Kink University. If you go in there, anybody who's anywhere in the world right now, you will find my sensual flogging video. If you're interested in video, just buy it. It's a few dollars, and it will stream into your computer. So get aware of having some skill and have some compassion. And if something you do doesn't work with your partner, don't have a fight. Just say, we tried this. It didn't work this time. Maybe we need to call Cleo and she'll give us some advice. Or maybe we need to look more on education in our spiritual BDSM blog. Or maybe we need to go see Martha Lee, depending where they are in the world. Okay? So be patient, but don't be afraid of your desire. As long as it is, adult and you can do it. Adult and consent and trust. So time to speak up.
So any last words just before we end the show? A little bit about your workshops?
Oh, my workshop. Yes. Well, I have a man workshop coming up. They're very small. I only take 8 students. People can attend with their partner, but if they don't have a partner, we do provide some fabulous volunteer bottoms who are women, if the men want a woman partner. And I teach it with Yves Minax and also Selena Reva. It's all hands-on, and our workshop is coming up in May 13, 14, and 15. And then I have other workshops through the year in September. I have one for women Same thing, 8 women, and we provide the volunteer bottom submissive, and they can also attend with their partner. I also have a 3-day workshop for women who want to be loving, erotic, dominant mistresses. So it's a professional training for dominatrix, and that is in July. And all of that information is on the www.sm-arts.com. That's for the workshop work. And then the other website is for the private work that I do. The one has my name, cleodubois.com. Right now I have room in the men intensive. So if you are interested, please go to the smart.com and send your little application. And this is for dominant men, that one. And if Minax and I will be glad to welcome you. We do this workshop 6 times a year, so 2 times for the men, twice for the women. And by the way, also we do welcome trans people as well. And the professional dominatrix one also twice a year, and the next one is in January.
Thank you so much. Thank you for coming on to today's show.
Thank you for having me.
And be sure to learn about Cleo by going to sm-arts and also cleodubois.com. Next week we have a different guest, and we'll be with Michi Timpi, and we'll be talking about 5 secrets to pleasure and connectedness. And he's a quadriplegic, and it's very interesting to be able to have this opportunity to talk about sex and disability in next week's show. So be sure to tune in to Eros Evolution next week.